I don't even know really how to start this video. I know for certain I will not be crying because I've cried a lot over the last 3 weeks.
Soluble, I know.
Today is the 2nd of September. I have done everything physically possible to get pregnant. Taking Insitol, coenzyme, vitamin D, limited my caffeine. I've not been drinking alcohol, I've lost weight. I've tracked every day while we're in Greece my ovulation. I could not do any more than we have done. So we shall see. I can test in 11 days time. I only feel really relaxed. I had a massage there. I had acupuncture 3 days before we went, and then I've got another acupuncture session Thursday. I haven't even got gel on my nails. I've literally done everything possible to strip it all back. All I've been told will help massively with fertility. So fingers crossed, because this is my last attempt before we go down the IVF route.
Oh, where did we go?
We went to A&E because the pain in my back and side was so bad it actually woke me up in the night. Yesterday they rang me and said that the blood tests were all fine and really positive. If I know that everything's okay, I just feel like my anxiety is going to get so much better. All that panic and worry, and baby's fine. We saw its heartbeat. It was just so nice. Basically, I just wanted to make this video for a few reasons. I think, one, I have found this process incredibly isolating and lonely. Secondly, there's been so many things that should not have happened to me. And then thirdly, I know that this is so common, but like I said, I just feel incredibly alone, and the only time I do actually feel comfort is when I speak to my friends who have been through this, and they've massively helped me. So I thought, I want to create a video if someone else is going through this or has gone through this, that they can watch this video and not feel alone. Starting from the beginning would mean going back to the start of this year when I had some tests done, and the reason that I lost the weight in the first place and have been losing weight from this whole period of time is to try and get pregnant and help with my fertility. And I was recommended to do that by the IVF clinic. We haven't had IVF, we didn't need to have IVF because in August when we went on holiday, I fell pregnant and we were both so incredibly excited. I'm trying really hard not to think about it because it just breaks me inside. And we were so surprised and happy, and we had literally just been final onboarding appointment with the IVF clinic, and then I took a test. It was like our last chance. I'd done everything possible to, as you've seen, and it worked, which we were both just so excited about. And realistically, from the start, I did start to feel a lot of pain, which I thought was just implantation pain, which is like the first few days after ovulation, and I thought that's what it was because it started for maybe like a week and then it went away, and then I forgot all about it. And then I got to weeks pregnant, and we decided to tell my mum and dad and Anthony's parents, and everybody was just so incredibly excited. Everybody has wanted us to have children for so long and known about some of the struggles that we were going through. And my mum had always had a lot of fertility issues, so it was always a worry from my mum that I wasn't going to be able to have kids. But we fell pregnant naturally, everything was going really well, and I was doing everything possible. I was incredibly anxious because I just had this feeling that something wasn't right, because I kept getting this on and off pain in my right side, and I just generally wasn't well. I had no morning sickness, but I just generally had really strong fatigue, and I just had a really swollen face. I just know my body, and I just didn't feel particularly great, which when you read online, you're like, oh, it's just first trimester, that's what happens, you just don't feel your best. So I just took it as that, and we booked a early scan for 6 weeks. So the scan was on the Thursday, but the Tuesday I'd woken up in the middle of the night, and I'd had the most incredibly painful stabbing pain in my back, all on my right side, and then all down the front as well, of my side and my hip. I rang 111 and said, this is what's happening. They said I needed to go to A&E in the morning, so we went straight to A&E. I waited in A&E for 4 hours, and then they sent me to the gynecology acute ward at Leeds, St James Leeds Hospital. Then they did some blood tests on me, and then sent me home and booked me in for a scan on the Friday. So I'd already got this scan booked in for my 6 weeks privately at Window to the Womb in Leeds, because we'd had that booked for a while, because I just wanted that reassurance, because I was already feeling quite anxious. And then the NHS could only fit us in on the Friday. So I said to them in the hospital, I said, should I cancel this private test and we'll just come on Friday? And the doctor advised and said, no, if you want to still go for the private test, that's fine. But we'll test you on Friday, we'll scan you on Friday to make sure whatever this pain is, we can get to the bottom of, because at one point they were even thinking it could be like appendicitis that I've got. So anyway, the Thursday comes, I'm very anxious. We went to Window to the Womb, and they scanned me. The first thing she said was, I can see a heartbeat. So instantly, I was so overwhelmed with happiness, because I'd literally spent the last, since the minute I got a positive test, thinking, I'm so anxious, I just need to make sure this is okay. So then when she said that, and then she started to say that she could see the fetal pole and she could see baby, and we were obviously both like, amazing, we can just relax, like, I don't know what this pain is, but the baby's fine. She then continued and said, oh, it looks like you've got some cysts on your right side. So I was like, okay, I'll obviously get that checked when I go back to the hospital. So after the appointment, they printed out our scan. I was so excited, felt so much really trying to like not break down over this, because this was probably the hardest part of this situation. Is I sent a scan that said, my first scan, to my mum and dad and to Auntie's mum and dad and to my friends, and said like, baby's fine, like, I've been worried about nothing. And then I rang the hospital and I said, I've just had a private scan, they've said everything seems fine, but they have noticed I've got some cysts on my side, so should I still come tomorrow? And she said, you can cancel the appointment if you're feeling fine and the baby's fine, so it's up to you. And there was just something inside of me that thought, actually, I really need to get to the bottom of this pain, because it's been so bad, and if she's seen that there's some cysts there, I just need peace of mind, and obviously having an NHS scan is going to be more efficient than a private scan. So the next day, we had another scan. Bearing in mind as well, no one told me that you're actually not supposed to have multiple scans. You're supposed to have a 2-week wait between each scan, but nobody, the Window to the Womb told me that, but nobody at the NHS told me that. My hand is so bruised from getting to that. So anyway, we went for the NHS scan. I was in the waiting room, super relaxed, happy. I'm thinking, I literally saw a baby yesterday. the heartbeat's there, like, this is just going to be all about trying to figure out what we're going to do about these cysts. So we went into this room, she scanned me. I was joking, laughing, me and Anthony were both joking, laughing. And she kept asking questions and she kept going really quiet. And she said, where did you have this scanned on yesterday? And I said, oh, it was a private clinic, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, I'm really struggling to find a heartbeat and I'm really struggling to find anything in the sac. And obviously, your heart just sinks because you're like, it's not even been 24 hours. It's not even been 24 hours that have passed. I've literally gone to sleep that night thinking everything's fine, to instantly being told what she saw yesterday was not what she's seen today. So she then went and got another sonographer to come into the room and double checked it. At this point, it's like such a blur. I just remember, I actually took a video while I was in there the other day, and I just remember staring, there's like an aircon unit and it had like a sticker on it. And you know when like you're so traumatised by something, but all you can see, God, I just don't want to go upset. And they were talking about what they could see. And it was like such an out-of-body experience. Because obviously, they both need to make a medical decision, and they kept saying, we're really sorry that we have to talk about this, and I was upset, and she was upset, and it was just really traumatic because I obviously walked into that appointment not expecting anything like that, whereas the day before, because I had my concerns, I'd kind of mentally prepared myself that it could be bad news. So if that had not happened, if I'd not gone for that private scan, I don't think I would have found it as hard and as traumatic as I did in that NHS scan, because I'd allowed myself to get excited and allowed myself to like start thinking about Christmas and start thinking about baby and like sending the scan to my mum and dad and sending the scan to Anthony's parents. And then all I kept thinking about in that moment when they were scanning me and telling me that there was nothing there is how I was going to possibly tell them. And anyone who's experienced a miscarriage will totally understand, like, you just straight away blame yourself and you start to think like, what is it, what could I have done? And I hand on heart, no. I did absolutely everything. I didn't go to work the whole time. I've tried not to be stressed. I didn't take socks off my feet because I kept asking ChatGPT, like, what can I do to make sure I'm doing the best to keep baby safe? I didn't take socks off my feet. I made sure I was warm every night. Like, I did everything. Took my prenatals, took omega-3, 6 and 9. I was eating really well. I did everything. And then that kind of gets in your head as well, because you're like, well, if I know that I've done everything possible and I still lost it, then how will I ever be able to conceive again? And I honestly, for probably that whole weekend, I just traumatised myself and was so horrible to myself. And then, like I said, I had to tell my mum and dad and tell Anthony's parents that it was no longer there. And then that was the weekend that we were supposed to have the event for Rella. So that was on the Friday, and then the Rella event was on the Sunday. And that was another thing in my mind. I kept thinking, how can I let all these people down? But I just knew as soon as anybody said to me, are you okay? I would have just been like this, because I'm definitely not okay. And also I just didn't want it to be about me, and like, I just wanted everyone to have a really good time and it to be positive. And I just knew that if I was around everybody, I would just not be myself. And I didn't want everybody to have this thought of like, oh, I was really just, yeah, overthinking everything. So I made the decision that I wouldn't go. Anthony still went, his mum went, and they were so brave because they both were obviously going through this as well. And the team knew as well what was happening. But I really did feel like I just let everybody down, but I just knew I was just not in a good headspace. And then I turned my phone off on that Friday night because I just like couldn't face anything at all. I was just so heartbroken. And I didn't realise, but the hospital had tried to call me a few times on the Friday and the Saturday because apparently they'd got a consultant to look at the scan and had made a comment that there was something not quite right with this, whatever was on my right side. They found like a big fibroid, but they were really concerned that it could be an ectopic pregnancy and I could have another baby on my right side as well as what else was in the womb, because what they actually said that when they were scanning me, what they saw in the womb was actually just blood, and they couldn't really work out. And this is kind of what's like an ongoing thing. I've already been talking for like 20 minutes right now, but an ongoing thing is that when they were scanning me, it wasn't a normal scan, and they kept needing to get second opinions because they were really confused at what they were seeing, which is not the most reassuring thing when you're already like dealing with grief of losing the baby. But then whenever a medical professional is basically telling you they don't really know what they're looking at and they're not sure what's happening, you just instantly feel so concerned. I was like, what's the direction this is going to go in? Like, you basically told me that the baby's gone, but it's still inside me. I've had no bleeding at all. I had no bleeding throughout the whole thing. And I just need to wait and see what happens. So then, after they rang me and said that, I had to go back in the next day. So me and my mum went in on the Sunday while Anthony and Jen was at the event. And she took me to the hospital and had some blood tests done. And they found that my HCG was still rising, which is basically the hormone that when you test your pregnancy test, it shows that you're pregnant. So as you further on in your pregnancy, it rises. But it wasn't rising enough for how far along I was, because I think by that point I was probably around 7 weeks pregnant. Or should have been. So they got me back in so that was on the Sunday. Then I had to go back in on the Tuesday to see if it got up again, and it had. And honestly, just the waiting around, like 4, 5, 6 hours waiting around. This pain was getting more and more intense in my right side. Obviously, I haven't been working. Anthony, I don't know how he's done it. He's been juggling all the stuff with Rella while getting me to the hospital, while I've been like, obviously, just a complete and utter mental mess, just so upset. My family and friends have just been absolutely incredible. I could not have got through this without them. My husband is Superman to me, honestly. He's just incredible. Max, my dog, Max has just sat there with me in bed for hours and hours and hours. Like, he just knew. God, I just really did not want to cry in this video. I just feel like he just knew how sad it was. Literally do not deserve dogs, honestly. He's been sat with me the whole time I've been in bed. Or on the sofa, he's just not left my side. And yeah, I just can't even tell you how appreciative I am of my husband, because he's just picked me up off the floor day after day. So after, I think it's probably like the 5th day of back and forth to the hospital trying to figure out what is going on with this fibroid, if it's an ectopic pregnancy, what is this pain in my side. They scanned me again, and I think in total I had 4 scans, 1 private, 3 NHS, and then I think I had about 4 or 5 blood tests. One day, I think I posted about it on Instagram as well, because I just literally had enough. I'd been in the hospital for, I think, probably like 6 hours at this point, and this was like the 4th day. It was like a running joke in the ward, like, oh, Emily's back, and obviously it's not the nurse's fault or the doctor's fault, but they are so stretched, and I really did appreciate everything that they did for me. And I think it was more that I was getting frustrated because no one could give me a solid answer. I was just sat here with no bleeding, baby was still inside. You're telling me that it's gone. There's no like plan of how to move forward, and nobody seems to really know what's going on. So it was just a real level of frustration that day that they lost my blood test, because we'd waited around so long, and the blood test was supposed to tell us like what the next steps were. So I just burst out crying that day with the doctor, because I just needed some closure. I could not move on with my life. I'm just for 2 weeks sat there with no like next step of what to do, not working, worried about how much money I was losing. I'm self-employed, I had no money coming in. There's all sorts going on with Rilla that's just been so stressful while all this has been happening, and it was just like I just need a solution to this, whatever's gonna go, what the next steps are. Like, we know the baby's gone now, so like let's make a plan. So they scanned me one more time, and this was on Thursday. That was the day that they lost the blood samples. Then they told me to, oh no, I've missed out another day that we were there. So when they thought it was ectopic, they made us come in at 9 p.m. Didn't leave until 3 a.m. so they could do more tests and do an internal examination. And I do have so much respect for that team and the NHS, because I saw a different person every single time, a different doctor, a different nurse every single time, more or less. And each day there was that room, the waiting room was full of women, all desperately needing their help. And like, you could just see how stretched they were and how busy they were and how hard it was for them to like focus on one person, because there's another one coming in that's more urgent. And yeah, I felt so bad for them. But at the same time, I was like, I just want to get what I need and then go, and then I'm not bothering you guys anymore. I just need to move on. So the next day, they got me to come in at 8 a.m. and suggested I have emergency surgery. So today is Sunday, I had surgery on Friday, and they did a D&C where they removed everything, because the final synopsis that the senior consultant and radiographer had said was that there's a serious chance that it's actually a molar pregnancy. So they don't think it was an ectopic. There was nothing there, that they checked all that. I didn't have another baby, but whatever was in the original sac, they were concerned was a molar pregnancy, which can be like a form of cancerous cells. So they didn't want me to take tablets to let the baby pass, or me to pass the baby naturally. They wanted me to have it, all of the cells and everything removed with surgery, so that there was no chance that if there was cancerous cells, they could spread anywhere. So they did that on Friday, and I was really scared, to be honest, because we got there and I was not expecting, like, they'd mentioned that I could have surgery, but you know, like, there'd been so many days of ups and downs that I was like, there's not a chance of having surgery. I can't even get like a dedicated blood test on one day, so I'm not having surgery today. But they pushed it through, and I was so thankful about that. So I had emergency surgery, and the surgery team was incredible. I can't remember everyone's name, but they were so amazing. And I am full of bruises. One of the junior doctors, bless him, he was trying to, I think he was like a trainee anaesthetist, and he couldn't get the tube in my hand, and oh, it's so sore. But I was just not bothered. I was like, wanted to get in there, get the solution and try and move forward. And obviously should not have Googled molar pregnancy before the operation, because then I'm thinking, I'm reading stuff about like, if they don't get everything, you have to have chemotherapy to try and get rid of all the cells, or you might have to have another operation. There's a strong chance that you can't have children, or you can't try and conceive for quite a while afterwards. And then as I was going to surgery, I had to sign loads of forms, and one of them was that if they have any complications, they might have to remove my womb and have a hysterectomy. And obviously all these thoughts are going through your head while you're still dealing with what you've just gone through. But I'm so hopeful and positive that the operation went so well. They didn't remove a lot of blood. So with a molar pregnancy, you would have usually had a lot of blood. And it wasn't, it just seemed very normal. And then since I've had hardly any bleeding either, so that is also looking really positive. But I won't actually know for a few weeks, because they took the tissue and the fetus and whatever was in my womb, and then they've taken it for a biopsy, so they'll be testing that to make sure that it's not a molar pregnancy, and then I'll probably find that out in the next 6 to 8 weeks, and I also need to do a pregnancy test in 3 weeks to make sure that my hormone level is going back to normal. But yeah, what fucking roller coaster, sorry for swearing, but it was just literally one thing after another, and trying to explain that on an Instagram story, or like just put all this bullshit on people that you know, like, no, everyone's got their own problems that they're going through. Like, nobody needs to know every day like an update on what's going on and how many hours I'm waiting in a hospital for. I mentioned the fact that throughout this, I think like the day before my operation, Anthony had rang Window to the womb and explained to them that this is what we'd been through, and they had gone to speak to one of their senior consultants to look at the scan that was taken of me, and they rang Anthony back and said there'd been a mistake when they've re-looked at the scan video, and the picture that they had printed out for us, there was no fetal polar heartbeat there, so they had made a mistake. So that whole process of me going to that scan and seeing the heartbeat and them saying all that, to then the next day not being there, was completely unnecessary and did not need to happen, because there was never a heartbeat showing up on that scan. And I think that's been probably the hardest part. Obviously there's all this cancer shit and all whatever else, and still don't know what's going on, and when can we start trying again, and if can, you know, there's all this shit that's in their air. But I really do think the most torturous and hard part to get over, and like I can't even probably talk about it without getting upset, is that moment when she said there was a heartbeat, and I was so excited, and I sent it to my parents and Auntie's parents, and they were so excited. So then the next day, it being gone, and knowing that I had to break that to them, had to tell them that just never needed to happen. And it was so cruel, and I just don't really understand why that happened to us. And then their response from Window to the Womb is that they're going to give their sonographer more training. That's what they've said, and it's just disgusting, because that is just not okay to do to people. Like, you need to be 100% sure. If you're not sure, you just say, I'm not sure, I think you need to go to the doctor, or you need to go to the hospital and have it checked. Like, you don't just guess. Like, it's just unnecessary. But I feel like I'm starting to put it all behind me now. Like, I'm moving forward, got a plan. We've got an IVF appointment in a few weeks' time, and just being able to be honest and like not hide it, and just say like what's going on in real time. And I don't even really know why I decided not to share it online, because obviously I share so much of my life online, but for some reason I was just really, I don't know, like I was like a secret I was hiding, and maybe that again wasn't the right thing to do, because it was making me anxious, and like I couldn't tell anyone that I was pregnant, and like my stomach was so bloated. I actually found out I was pregnant the day of our relish shoot in Manchester, and I was putting all these tight dresses on, and my stomach was so bloated, and I obviously had to hide it, and no one was any the wiser. Like, you probably can see in some of my videos, my last videos on Instagram, my stomach is really bloated, and that's because I was pregnant. Yeah, I just think moving forward, I'm just going to be way more transparent, and the amount of people who have told me they've had a miscarriage, who I had no idea about, like really my close friends, my school friends, like, yeah, a lot of people go through this or have gone through this in their life, and it's not really spoken about, and it's fucking shit. And I just want more people to feel like they don't have to go through it alone. Like, yeah, it's just been hard on everybody. It's been hard on my husband, my mum and dad. It's been hard on Anthony's parents. So people have been so worried, and yeah, I'm glad that we've come to a conclusion now. We know what's happened. I can just recover. I'm definitely feeling much better today. Just had a shower. My hair is not the cleanest. It definitely needs dyeing. I've got the worst roots, but in the grand scheme of things, I think I look pretty okay compared to how I've been looking for the last few weeks. But yeah, hopefully I'll be putting this chapter behind me. And if you made it to the end of this video, then thank you, because it's a long one. It's emotional, and I'm hoping that this is going to give me the closure to just close this door and move forward with what the next chapter is going to bring, and hopefully there will be a video one day where I announce that we are pregnant and the baby's fine, and I'll never forget this. But yeah, I can't wait for that day to come where I won't feel like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll hopefully see you guys soon.